It's a good tuna, but I think I paid too much.
I always wear my mask and wash my hands after going home.
I am the king of the ring.
Welcome to the Japan What Podcast, episode 202. And I'm your host, Matthew P.M. Bigelow. And I'm coming at you from the Aizumicho Studios in Shinjuku, Tokyo, Japan. The army of Asia. Covering Japan Society 5.0, AI market trends, depopulation, migration in Japan, as well as rising conflict in the Indo-Pacific. We thank you for coming along on the adventure that is today's show. Yep, March 2025 keeps on ticking. I still can't believe we got through all that 2020 to 2023 stuff, and time just keeps on moving. It's kind of how I imagine the Great Wars went. People were like in 1944 Germany, and then 1949 Germany. Like, don't you remember 1944? Like, that was just 5 years ago. Yeah, we're not going to talk about that, actually. You can swap out Germany for anywhere else. I don't know why I chose Germany, or do I? Wink, wink. We know what happened there. Could have chosen the UK, or like a place like Kazakhstan, or Cameroon. The people of Cameroon in 1949 must have been like, 1944 was only 5 years ago. And then the Cameroonians went, I know, can you believe it? Africa. I've been doing some deep dives on Africa recently, especially Rhodesia. I was born in 1980, which is when basically Rhodesia became Zimbabwe. And I never grew up thinking about it at all. Except now with all the migration happening around the world, I kind of looked at what went on in Rhodesia, which was like this white colonized area of Africa. And then they got tossed out essentially by Mugabe. And it went from like this place that had some race issues but was very productive to a place that had even more race issues and was far less productive. And a lot of people say it's like because of African rule. I don't even know if that's true. It seemed to be more like race-based communism than anything else. It's multifaceted. Anyways, the people of Cameroon. And also, it's like you see Africa on the globe, right? And it's obviously huge. But I was listening to this thing by this guy called Thomas Sowell. He's like a black economist from the United States. It just popped up on the YouTube. And he was saying like the coastline of Africa is the smallest of any other coastline in the world. And I was like, what are you talking about? It's the world. Like the whole, Africa is like, that's a significant chunk of inhabitable land on the earth just gone. But apparently there's not a lot of like peninsulas and deltas. There are some, but just they're highly lacking. And then a lot of the waters around Africa are quite shallow, which makes deep sea ports kind of difficult. Then there are quite substantive rivers throughout Africa, but a lot of them have lots of waterfalls, which means that it's hard to traverse up them for ships until very recently and things like that. So it's like people look at the economic development of the place and it's like, well, look at those people and it's not developed. Maybe they're to blame, but it's like that's way too of a basic idea. I don't even know why I'm talking about this right now, but just to say that there's all these interesting facts out there that staring us right in the face that Africa, the whole continent, is lacking in coastline compared to other continents because it's all the sides are just basically straight. It doesn't have a lot of bits coming in and out and going in and coming out again and stuff like that, which means the coastline, might look small on the map, but if you straightened it out like a plate of pasta and you took all of the pasta strings and straightened them out, you'd end up with a big, long string of pasta. It's ridiculous. But there we go. Passing on the knowledge dropping. Today we're going to take a look at a variety of things. We're going to move on from Africa. The old Cameroonian German comparison for years that go by when we look at 2019 to 2024 in Tokyo, Japan. The correlations really are astounding, especially when you go into random things that have nothing to do with anything. All right. So this is crazy. This comes to us from Nippon.com, and I chose Nippon.com just because it has a little bit more details about this. One thing, I want to cover things where they are going, and if they become important, I cover it more, and if they become less important, I cover it less. For example, AI has become more and more important, so I'm covering it more and more. But 5 years ago when I started this thing, I didn't cover it that much, even though I was working in it at the time. And as migration, I think, becomes more and more important, I might have to start covering that too, despite not me really wanting to cover it. It's full of snakes, like pasta, like a coastline. But here we go. I could have chosen this topic from any number of websites, but this one uses both deaths and births. Number of Japanese births continues to fall in 2024. In 2024, there were just 720,000 births in Japan, marking the lowest total since records began in 1899. Oof. A lot of people say, well, good. There's already too many people and the earth needs to heal. Those people really scare me. Those are the people that say, I wear a mask because I follow the science. That's why I'm swimming with a mask on. This is big. This is for somebody who has kids and is living here long term. This is my future that I'm looking at. Preliminary demographic statistics from the Ministry of Health, Labor, and Welfare show that in 2024, there were 720,988 births in Japan. The amount was 37,643 fewer than the previous year and marked a 9th consecutive year of decline. In 2022, the total dipped below 800,000 for the first time and now is on track to fall below 700,000 for this year. The decline in the number of women in their childbearing years and the slump in marriages during the COVID-19 pandemic are thought to be the core factors. Yeah, because we're looking at multiple segments of the youth from if they were 10 in 2020, now they're 15. If they're 15, now they're 20. If they're 20, now they're 25. If they're 25, now they're 30. So we're kind of looking at like a 15-year scope of an entire nation's demographics that just had a lot. I'm not including 10 to 15-year-olds, obviously. So from 15 to 25, which would be now 20 to 30, all of those people had their entire youth opportunities for getting married or exploring relationships or going out and being crazy or sowing your oats, as they used to say. And now we're living with the after effects of that. The economy is directly tied into that too, I believe. The preliminary statistics include figures for foreigners living in Japan and Japanese nationals living abroad, whereas the final statistics will be lower. Wow. So in 2024, the number of deaths increased by 28,000 to a new high of 1.6 million. So we're expected to fall under 700,000 births for this year, whereas last year, 1.6 million people died. Well, that's going to increase too. The natural population decline, which is the difference between the number of births and deaths, surpassed 600,000 for the first time in 2021, but it went to 780,000 in 2022, 830,000 in 2023, and almost 900,000 in 2024. The number of marriages rose by 10,000 to almost 500,000 in 2024, but it remains low. And there's a chart here that I'm going to include on the official website of the Japan What Podcast, MatthewPMBigelow.com, and it shows deaths, marriages, and births by year. And while it does show that deaths have been steadily rising since 2004, 2019 to 2020 marked a rapid decline in a lot of these trends. So after 2019, marriages took a stark dive down, whereas before it was kind of a general decline. Births as well. It was declining, but after 2019, it really pushed it down. And then deaths as well after 2019 really, really pushed it up. and you could look at statistics in your reality and apply them in any which way you want. For example, some people might say, well, it's just as the population ages, you're going to see an increase in the death rate. But a lot of people might say, well, separating everybody from each other, humans or a herd animal, may have led to a lot of people dying earlier, or it might be because of certain medical procedures that were experimental. Or maybe there's long-term effects to the COVID-19 virus. We don't even know. It's amazing how we can talk about the aging population, but we can't talk about the jibby jabbies without kind of looking around to see, is it cool to talk about that? But why wouldn't you? Everybody did it at the same time, and then the statistics directly reflect that. No, you can't say that. That causation does not equate correlation, or correlation does not equate causation. Climate and weather are not the same. All this stuff that we just hear for years and years from the crazy people on the left. So that's that. I'm not, obviously it's just going to increase, but to add another layer onto this idea here is the idea that Japan's government, which is obsessed with SDGs and DEI now, this comes to us from Gigi.com, which is a major wire service in Japan. It says, Japanese public and private sectors unite to secure Indian talent. Interesting, and what they want to do is they want to, this idea that there's not going to be enough workers in Japan for the next wave of artificial intelligence means that regional areas are keen to attract more than 50,000 Indians over the course of 5 years. Expectations not only for international students and highly skilled IT personnel, but also for them to play a key role in industries suffering from labor shortages, such as manufacturing. Many Japanese universities are eager to invite the most outstanding and intelligent students and researchers, Hokkaido University president said during a speech. And the heads of over 70 universities and research institutes from Japan and India attended this graduation event in Hokkaido, and meetings between the heads were also expected to expand collaboration. And this was the first time the event was held, not in Hokkaido, but in India. A representative from the Japan Science and Technology Agency, which organized the event, expanded the aim of the event, saying there's excellent universities are not only found at Indian institutes of technology, but also at private universities in regional areas. We needed to come here to broaden the base. So it goes on from there. So as the population decreases, a lot of people were saying, well, Japan will, as an insular society, will just turn to technology to solve its problems. But it seems that more and more of Japan's elite are in line with the UN and the World Economic Forum and, DEIs and SDGs and this branch of governance, despite having a very tight alliance with the United States. The elites of Japan, I think, have gone along more with the groups, the experts, the groups of experts, and would rather affiliate themselves with those. It is included as well. Pakistani, some other headlines in this regard. Pakistani communities in Japan demand to be treated like Japanese. They want burial grounds and things like that. This is a strange shift in migration patterns, because as a migrant in Japan, I've never gotten together with Canadians and marched demanding for things from the government. We might whinge and complain about some of the procedures around here, but we certainly don't take to the streets and start flying foreign flags. But now that's becoming more of a thing. Kawaguchi soccer team, FC Kurd, protests after being stopped from engaging in unauthorized activities at Saitama Stadium, saying that they're being discriminated against. So this FC Kurds would be just like a group of Muslims. Kurds wanted to fly their own flag. But at a lot of stadiums in Japan, you're not allowed to fly flags because it's seen as like kind of hijacking the event or causing disorder. And so this has happened a few times against foreigners too, where somebody waved a Japanese-only flag and they were taken down as well. So this has nothing to do with discrimination. It's just they don't want their sports stadiums turned into political displays. And then, as well as this last one here, 1,600 foreign students are missing, and the Tokyo University of Social Welfare has been instructed to suspend acceptance. So a lot of these people come over here and then they just go off into the woods and they leave behind whatever. So a lot of them end up overstaying their visas, which is bad. In my opinion, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it doesn't really say to the country you're in that you're respecting the law of the land. So how can you be trusted there long term? So I just wanted to kick off today by saying, yeah, we all know that the Japan birth rate is decreasing, but it's decreasing a lot. And the plan to replace them with technology doesn't seem to be happening. Whereas the actual plan is to replace with migrant labor of a variety of types. All right. That's the Japan birth rate, migration rate for today. Turn that up a bit. Let's take a look at the supply chain war. Die for the war. Everybody move. Die for the good, for the good. Die for the war. Die for the war. All right. The supply chain war, of course, takes on a variety of implications and meanings. It's a big thing, sometimes difficult to unpack. But the idea here is that ever since 2019, the G7 and BRICS have been involved ever increasingly in a supply chain war. This involves taking market share. This involves screwing around with each other in the supply chains as well. During COVID, China kind of commandeered a lot of the world's shipping containers and kind of said, well, we have to process them in a certain way. And it led to massive increase in shipping rates for G7 nations, or just clogging up all of the G7 supply chain routes with endless COVID regulations, while a lot of Chinese ones went freely anywhere they wanted to in the world. It goes on from there. And of course, we have the war side of this, which could mean competition in the supply chain, or it could mean actual conflict that erupts due to what's going on in the supply chains. And the way I see it is China wants to get away from the US dollar by creating an alternative system that uses the Chinese renminbi, the yuan. And they want to back this with satellites, with their digital payments systems, with artificial intelligence, with their own shipping lanes. And it goes on and it goes on from there. Now, a key part of this is Japan's location is it's an Asian country, but it's a G7 country. And it's very tightly tied to the United States, but it's also pushed up right against China. And diplomatically, China and Japan are not so close together, whereas Japan and America are much more diplomatically aligned on paper. And with the supply chains, though, a lot of major companies in Japan are using a lot of Chinese manufacturing there. They're offshoring technically, but they're still sourcing there. A lot of companies. The CEO of Uniqlo has said China remains an important part of our long-term interests, and even though you don't get along, you're still next to each other, so you have to put up with each other. So the idea that Japan is able to so competitively compete on the world stage comes from the fact that they don't have to spend much on military because there's so many American military bases here as a result of World War II and security guarantees. And I also think it's been a long-term strategy on behalf of the international rules-based order for America to occupy a lot of the islands facing the Chinese coastline in the Pacific or the Chinese Sea, to hem them in a way. And now China is trying to break out. And there's, whether you like it or not, there's probably going to be a massive policy shift coming from the United States very soon. They're probably going to go rather isolationist. And there's been a lot of signaling over the past few years that if Asian countries want to assert themselves against China, then America isn't going to be there for them as it was in the past. America's facing a lot of problems right now economically. Their recruits aren't showing up as much as they used to. There's just issue after issue after issue. And economically as well, there's issue after issue after issue. So the United States has been signaling for a year that while they may shift from Europe towards Asia, which is a new center of commerce and industry in the world, so why wouldn't they, away from Europe, which is just endless regulations and crazy leadership and a stupid Ukrainian war with Russia? Both are involved. I'm not going to say it. There's been signals coming from the past few years. And one of the signals is coming from a guy named Elbridge Colby. If you've listened to the podcast before, I've been covering him for more than a year now, basically because he started popping up. He was a member of Trump's original administration in the Pentagon. And in the inter period there of the Biden years, Elbridge Colby was doing a lot of media, writing op-eds or appearing on panels and discussions and things like that on major places like NHK or Nikkei or wherever he could go. And he's been saying for the past few years as well that, America helps those who help themselves, this type of a thing. And we want to shift towards Asia, but we don't want regime change in China. America needs to focus on itself and blah, 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 blah. So today's supply chain war is going to come to us more from diplomatic shifts occurring as a result of the new American administration. Japan brushes aside U.S. demand to boost defense budget up to 3% of GDP. Okay, so there we go. Japan on Wednesday pushed back against the demand by U.S. President Donald Trump's nominee for a top Pentagon policy post to boost Japan's defense spending to 3% of its GDP to tackle growing security challenges. Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said Japan determines its own defense spending, not at the direction of any other country, while Chief Cabinet Secretary Yoshimasa Hayashi emphasized the importance of the substance of capabilities over the budget amount. The remarks came after Elbridge Colby. Elbridge Colby, we follow each other on X, and he's helped me with some AI research in the past, especially with AI radars that China is installing on its coastline facing Taiwan to get better resolution from long-range incoming targets towards China's coastline from Taiwan. So just an interesting aside there. So Elbridge Colby, tapped to be Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, said in a written statement at a Senate confirmation hearing on Tuesday, Japan should be spending at least 3% of its GDP on defense. The Japanese government has long capped its defense spending at about 1% of GDP, but has raised the budget in recent years with a goal of reaching 2% by fiscal 2027. Colby, meanwhile, said it makes little sense for Japan, which is directly threatened by China and North Korea, to spend only 2%, referring to Trump's calls for Taiwan and NATO members to allocate 10% and 5% of GDP, respectively. The seasoned security expert, known as a China hawk, maybe a China critic, but he's repeatedly said, no war with China, no regime change in China, focus on China, but support our allies if they support themselves. So I'm including this here because this type of signaling has been going along for quite a while from the United States. And it may be signaling that they're not going to be here as much as they used to, or they're not going to commit as much military to Asian security as they used to. And in terms of the supply chain war, of course, this would mean Japan having to dramatically shift its own internal supply chains to go from making consumer products to military systems or military whatever you want to say. This also coincides with not only Elbridge Colby, who's tapped to be number 3 position at the Pentagon, but Trump as well, who says
Japan that we have to protect them, but they don't have to protect us. You know that? That's the way the deal reads. We have to protect Japan. And by the way, they make a fortune with us economically. There's another case. But we have to protect Japan, but under no circumstances do they have to protect us. I actually asked, who makes these deals? Japan, but we have an interesting deal with Japan that we have to protect them.
I'm playing it again on
but
purpose.
They don't have to protect us. You know that? That's the way the deal reads. We have to protect Japan. And by the way, they make a fortune with us economically. There's another case. But we have to protect Japan, but under no circumstances do they have to protect us. I actually ask, who makes these deals?
Okay, well, he's framing it, of course. We all know that after World War II, Japan had its army stripped of it and was forced to become a pacifist country. And America would provide a security umbrella, and Japan would make its own self-defense forces that wouldn't technically be an army and are forbidden from having nuclear weapons and doing aggression and all that. Of course. But what's happening here is a signal saying things are going to change. It's not as they used to be. We can't keep going along. Everything is always 1938, and it's always going to lead to World War II with some sort of Hitler thing unless we all make everything the same as long as possible. It's like it's a 70-year history, and things need to change. So instead of just saying things are changing and we're going to do this, which would cause all sorts of chaos and uncertainty, it's framing it. So it's like, well, we protect you, but you don't protect us. So things need to change. These policy indicators are going on and on and on. Furthermore, Japan's getting racked in the supply chain war here. This comes to us from NHK from Tuesday, March 4th, 2025. We're recording this on Friday, March 7th, 2024. U.S. President Trump accused Japan of currency manipulation and hinted he might respond with tariffs. Trump said other countries are deliberately pushing down the value of their currencies to give their economies a competitive advantage, and he singled out Japan and China. Trump has said that he phoned President Xi Jinping from China and Japan's leaders as well. He said he told them that he can't continue he told them that these countries cannot continue to devalue their currencies against the dollar because it's unfair to the U.S. Trump said the easy solution for America is to impose tariffs on its trading partners. The Japanese finance minister denied that his country has been weakening the yen. Kato Katsunobu pointed out that the government and the Bank of Japan have intervened to strengthen its currency in the past, most recently last year. Okay, that's true. Yeah, Japan did intervene to strengthen its currency. But if I look at 100 JPY to USD in the old Google here, and we choose on the timeline scale instead of 1 month to maximum, we are at the lowest point almost in 2025 from any other point in the past 20 years. So even in 2005, it was higher than it is now. And up until 2019, it was at parity pretty much, where 100 yen was worth $1. But in the past 4 or 5 years, with the economic shutdowns during COVID and the mass money printing, the yen suddenly just took a big dump, and it's been dumping and dumping and dumping ever since. We've just had this slew of tourism and just everything getting worse. Everything getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Not getting better. It's getting worse. But the politicians are just saying, no, we're not listening to you. We don't agree with you. You're going to be there for us, and we're going to replace our population because they're not having babies, and we need voting blocks that have we need population and demographic blocks that have no voting rights, so we don't have to respond to them. We'll just take your taxes and spend them on whatever we want, like Qatar or something like that. I think that's how they fancy themselves in certain ways. So that's part of what's going on in the supply chain wars in terms of kind of rifts or indications of changes in alliances and the status quo. A lot of people are believing that America is also getting itself ready to make massive fiscal policy changes to do so it's in its own interest. They've been doing like $1 trillion of debt printing every 3 months for the past few years. So it can't continue, I think is the messaging. We can't do this anymore. Figure it out yourselves. We're pulling out. We're not sticking around as much as we used to. We can't do it anymore. I think that's the message that the administration is trying to deliver, but without because it's diplomatic, you just can't be frank about it. We're just kind of done, guys. Go figure it out yourself. We can't do it all the time. Stop it. We're done. 70 years. It's enough. It's enough. Figure it out. Just a couple more headlines in the supply chain war. I don't think we need to go into it too much, but China and Russia expand cooperation on Antarctic drilling. That is reasons why Trump has floated the Canada becoming the 51st state and taking over Greenland. It's because the Greenlandians or the Greenlanders can't really exploit their natural resources, and Canada is refusing to because they're a bunch of communist eco-fascists that think that the Arctic is melting and it needs to be preserved by having no humans there and taxing its citizens to all hell. But meanwhile, China and Russia are just going to move in. So there's that idea in the supply chain war, which is affecting the established diplomatic relationships. Another one. We've been covering this. I'm just going to read some headlines here. China signals new era of sea power in the Southwest Pacific. So China has been going down into the Tasman Sea and circling around Australia with its new fleet of advanced fighters, advanced frigates and things like that. Kind of sitting doing live fire exercises saying, hey, we're down here now. You guys are going up between Taiwan and China there for your freedom of navigation exercises. Well, we're going to come down to the Tasman Sea and do freedom of live fire exercises. See what you think of that. You tit for tat. It's kind of what it amounts to. Next, Japan commissions fourth Taigei class submarine. I like this one here. We're covering this as well because Japan's been really upping its game in the submarine departments. They have a variety. They have diesel as well as lithium ion. And this is the idea where in case that China comes at Japan with like fleets and fleets of just regular ships, Japan will have a massive array of submarines that can hopefully take them out. They have spy ones and surveillance ones and attack ones. So the Japan Maritime... this comes to us from navalnews.com by Kosuke Takahashi. I think I followed him on X. The Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force has commissioned the fourth of its Taigei-class diesel-electric attack submarines, which feature better detection and anti-detection capabilities than its older boats. Named the Raigei, the new Taigei-class boat was inducted into the Submarine Division 1 of Submarine Flotilla 1, which is home-ported at the Kure Naval Base in Hiroshima Prefecture, shortly after being handed over by shipbuilder Kawasaki Heavy Industries at its facility in Kobe City on March 6th. What I really like about Japan is that they can do this. They build their own submarines with their own names. And like, I'm from Canada, and we just don't do that. We just buy other people's stuff. So it's pretty impressive that Japan can build its own like fleets. Do you call submarines fleets? Anyways, flotilla. According to the JMSDF, the new submarine has a crew complement of about 70, an overall length of 84 meters, and a standard displacement of about 3,000 tons, meaning that it is slightly larger than the well-known previous Soryu-class SSKs. The Taigei class for the first time has female-only compartments, such as a living space for up to 6 women, according to the service. Raigei means thunder whale in Japanese. The Taigei class submarines all incorporate gei, which means whale, into their names. It doesn't mean what you think it means, following the Shio, which means tide, and then Yu, which means dragon series in previous versions of the submarines. Taigei itself means big whale. The new submarine, which cost about $470 million to build, is powered by diesel-electric engine generating 6,000 horsepower. An underwater max speed of 20 knots. I'll be taking pictures of this and posting them up at the website, MatthewPMBigelow.com, if you're interested in, I can't remember what they're called because I'm not a military person, but inaugurations for submarines and ships. I like the ceremonies they hold where they break the bottle on the beam, or they a bunch of people stand on the submarine and the submarine goes around a port or something like that with all these people on top. Just kind of a funny thing. All right. And the final one in the supply chain war is this also incorporates countries like Malaysia and Vietnam and and Singapore, where we all have to play both sides of being kind of in this seam between America's influence and Chinese borders here. Wary of China, Vietnam to buy 2 spy satellites from Israel. After years of talks, Hanoi has signed the $680 million deal with Israel Aerospace Industries, which hopes that this time the Vietnamese won't renege on the agreement. We're not going to read the whole thing. I just wanted to include that here as it's slightly relevant from a peripheral standpoint where normally you would think that Vietnam and China might be a bit tighter with their proximity. They're both kind of communist governments, but there's always been a rift between them. And all of these countries are trying to play both sides to kind of diversify the risks and to not become subsumed entirely by one or the other. But it's interesting that the Vietnamese are buying spy satellites from Israel. What type of technology does Israel really have? I wonder, don't you? All right, that's going to be it for the supply chain war for today. Not taking a look so much at China and the South China Sea or the AI satellites and all of that, but more about how major shifts in diplomacy might affect how the supply chain orients itself in the future, where Japan might previously have relied on American power or American investment in Japan for its military so that Japan would be able to economically surpass many other nations due to the fact that it doesn't have to invest that much money into its defense spending comparatively to other countries. Now it might have to shift that. And during these times when you have less tax revenue coming in and when you have a real decrease in the yen, sourcing all that material might increase the price and might affect how the country as a whole is able to manage itself from an economic behemoth to now figuring itself out in terms of what it can do to better defend itself should China make a move on Japan's shores in the supply chain war. Die for the war, everybody move. Die for the good, die for the war, die for the war. Japan Society 5.0.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0. A technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face. It will, for example, free us from the stress of driving, allowing us to safely visit anyone, anytime. We will have access to the latest medical advancements at a low cost, no matter where we are. AI and robots will enhance human ability and expand our infinite possibilities, helping us enjoy more fulfilling lives. Society 5.0. For the betterment of human lives.
All right, and that's Japan Society 5.0. An umbrella term for all things AI. Society 5.0, meaning this next level that we're going into, a wireless AI-powered society where everything in your phone is imported into the surveillance networks around you that allow you to order an Uber with your face wherever you are. And not put us into these digital gulags where we're constantly punished all the time for saying or doing anything that somebody above us might disagree with. No. Why would that happen? Always that's in the back of the mind. Read Orwell once and you're like, damn it, now I have to think like that for the rest of my life. I saw a BYD car on the streets of Tokyo the other day. I live in downtown Tokyo in Shinjuku-ku. And it was nice. BYD is, of course, Build Your Dream. It's a Chinese manufacturer of EV cars and self-driving and all these different components to it. And I was just walking along and I saw the car and I was like, that looks like an interesting car. And I saw on the front, it said BYD. And I was like, that's a BYD car. It looked like a sports car, like a roadster, not a roadster, but it looked like similar to a Tesla. Teslas look better, but the BYD looked pretty good. I looked it up online and it's like a $50,000 car in Tokyo. And so I had been reading all these news reports about BYD being like the cheapest EV thing that you could possibly ever get. And I kind of was like thinking this sports car was only going to be 20 grand or something like that. It's like, nah, it's quite more than that, but it looked really nice. And this is an interesting trend that we're witnessing, is that we are beginning to see more new Chinese cars on Japan's roads than American cars on Japan's roads. We still get a lot of European cars because Japan's roads are very narrow and a lot of European roads are very narrow. So they're kind of good for each other. Good on gas, the good turning and stuff like that. A lot of American cars are just based on like the highway where it's just straight for 500 kilometers, and you put like 700 horsepower into a Corvette in a steering wheel that barely even moves, and you just hit the gas as hard as you can and burn off into the horizon past some mountain range or something like that. It's like that's go really fast in a straight line, but in Japan that's not the case. But we've also seen Japanese factories open up that specifically make Chinese consumer products with robots and stuff like that. So we're seeing this reverse, whereas previously people would import things from Japan, but Japan wouldn't import things from them. Now we're seeing that Japan is importing things from China more and more. And I'll be posting a picture of the car to MatthewPMBigelow.com, where you can see all the pictures and news and have some donation ideas like paypal.me/JapanWUT. That's paypal.me/JapanWUT for donation ideas, but for all the other stuff as well. Now, this car cost, like I said, about $50,000, but on the Nikkei here, it says BYD to smash price with autonomous driving, level 2 EV in a 1 million yen range. So level 2 means almost fully autonomous. I think you just have to have a person in there, but it can basically go anywhere you want it to autonomously. China's BYD is launching a price-shattering campaign with its advanced driver assistance system. It will expand the installation of this ADAS, equivalent to level 2 plus autonomous driving, to most of its models, including low-cost models priced at under 100,000 RMB, or 2.1 million yen, or about $15,000. It will strengthen the product appeal of its main low-cost vehicles and prepare for competition with emerging manufacturers. On February 10th, 2025, BYD held a briefing on its intelligence strategy, announcing that it will equip most of its vehicles with this self-driving system without raising prices. Bold move, because Tesla likes to really increase. Then they offer you more and more full self-driving features that you have to pay for, like thousands of dollars, and they send it to your phone as a notification. You want to pay it? Boop, you pay it, tap, $5,000 later. It beams all this technology into your Tesla, and now your car is better than before. Interesting business model, isn't it? But BYD has there's this new model, and I'm going to post a video of this at MatthewPMBigelow.com. And BYD has teamed up with the drone manufacturer DJI, where you can put a drone launch pad on the top of your car, and it's covered. And so you're driving along and you can hit a button and the gates will open on this drone pad, and then a drone will fly off the car and then can follow your car around and film your car, make movies of your car. But the idea here is that instead of having like a spare tire, you have a spare drone. This is amazing. BYD and drone giant DJI have introduced a vehicle-mounted drone system called Lingyuan. The innovative system integrates a drone directly into a vehicle, creating a mobile entertainment platform. The Lingyuan features a high-tech drone deployment mechanism where the vehicle's doors open to reveal a rising platform that launches a drone while the car is in motion. Now is the time for innovation, for something completely new, something that we aren't even sure will be legal in some countries due to safety or security regulations. But it's exciting to see how the car industry is evolving to support the democratization of content creation. Ling Yuan is a comprehensive system that includes the DJI Air 3S drone next to a drone hangar measuring, I'm not going to get into the measuring, but it can follow vehicles at speeds up to 54 kilometers an hour and an automatic return feature within a 2-kilometer range. Additionally, the drone can self-recharge, efficiently recovering battery power from 20% to 80% in just 30 minutes. The Ling Yuan system costs about $2,000, or probably like, 300,000 yen, is designed to be compatible with multiple BYD brand vehicles, including the Yangwang U8. So there's that. That's the kind of innovation. And I'll be posting the video. It's pretty cool. It's like, oh, I want that. That's the future I was hoping for. And it's coming from China. Moving on. Just continuing the focus on China here. China has opened an AI hospital. Just had a call there. China has opened an AI hospital, revolutionizing healthcare with artificial intelligence, from Global Times. So it's just Chinese propaganda, as opposed to our news, which is just not propaganda at all. Because the only type of propaganda that comes into my eyes is from news sources overseas. That's it. Everything else is just the truth. It's the science. Artificial intelligence has been making waves in various industries, and healthcare is no exception. Chinese researchers shed light on the practical implications of this new AI hospital, where virtual patients are treated by AI doctors. It holds immense significance for both medical professionals and the general public. The AI hospital aims to train doctor agents through a simulated environment so it can autonomously evolve and improve its ability to treat disease. Recently, researchers from Tsinghua University have developed the AI hospital called Agent Hospital. I've been talking about AI agents for the past few weeks. Last week, I was talking about dark factories. But now we have dark hospitals filled with AI agents inside of them in a virtual world, training for the future. In this virtual world, all doctors, nurses, and patients are driven by LLMs, and they're capable of autonomous interaction. The environment simulated in Agent Hospital consists of two main entities, patients and professionals. The Agent Hospital includes consultation rooms and requiring a series of professional intelligent agents to work. The research team leader of the Agent Hospital, Liu Yang, also executive dean at the Institute for AI Industry Research and associate dean of the Department of Computer Science and Technology at Tsinghua University, which is China's top university, told the Global Times that the AI hospital town is set to transform the way doctors diagnose and treat patients, bringing immense benefits to both medical professionals and the general public. If the patients in the town are real and the doctors are virtual, online telemedicine services can be provided to patients. The AI hospital town utilizes a vast repository of authoritative medical knowledge, allowing AI doctors to handle thousands or even millions of cases. And it kind of goes on from there. So the entire thing, basically you'll just go up to a kiosk and put in a blood sample, scan your eyes, and then the AI hospital will just diagnose you. Isn't that nuts? AI hospital. AI surgeries. Where you go into a medical room and the top surgeon in the world for whatever you need is working remotely. That's the reason for 5G. So just with this in mind, these types of leaps and bounds are going on in China, and people will say, well, it's China, so it's just going to suck because their economy is going down and their population is declining anyways. I don't think so, guys. I don't think so. I'm not going to go much into that. I had prepared something else. Let's take a look at Japan. The Japanese examples are a lot more practical. We don't have drones flying out of cars and scientists, AI researchers making hospitals, virtual hospitals, to diagnose the future of the population. As the numbers decrease and the amount of experts decrease, we're just going to bring Indians, right? Japan researchers develop highly sensitive scent tracking drone using moth antenna. Researchers in Japan have created a drone using a silkworm moth antenna that can track scents, an innovation that could aid in disaster victim search and rescue missions. This is the way it always has to go in Japan because the security laws are so stringent. The only thing that you can ever do with any new technology is make it so that it's good for victim search and rescue missions and disasters. Then you get the approval. But anything else, you get the tooth-sucking old man going, and that means no. The team, led by Associate Professor Daigo Terutsuki of Shinshu University Faculty of Textile Science and Technology, Associate Professor, and so on, managed to more than double the previous scent tracking range, enabling detection up to 5 meters away. The drone, measuring 10 centimeters on each side, is mounted with an antenna from a male silkworm moth to detect female pheromones. Silkworm moth antennae emit electrical signals when exposed to scents, and the device is 10 to 100 times faster than conventional gas sensors, allowing precise odor source tracking. Interesting stuff, huh? Researchers optimized the sensor's cover design to improve airflow and developed a better attachment method to extend the antenna's usability. The drone mimics insect behavior by hovering and rotating while tracking scents. The removal of the antenna does not harm the moths, which live their usual 1-week lifespan. Currently, the drone tracks scents only horizontally. Why? I don't know. The team plans to enhance vertical tracking and experiment with mosquito antennae, which detect human odors, to help locate disaster victims trapped in collapsed structures. While rescue dogs are commonly used, drones can access areas dogs cannot. And it goes on from there. So potentially like mini drone swarm. When I worked in big tech, I always thought having drone silos on the tops of buildings that would release like hundreds of drones with camera arrays on them for like identifying humans, identifying heat patterns, so they'd be able to locate people trapped under buildings or something like that, or provide live maps of destruction to firefighters and to police and maybe even to citizens to indicate where you can go and where you can't go, so that you'd be able to escape more flexibly, or create a variety of escape patterns so that not everybody goes down the same road and causes another jam, which could then make the effects of the disaster worse. So I'm glad to see that these are happening, but these moth things are just very small. But it would be interesting to have 10,000 such little tiny drones that you could release into a neighborhood and identify where scents are coming from. And once it's identified, just beam that via Wi-Fi into a cloud, and it would put a little dot on a map, and then it would send all that data to rescue workers' phones or something like that, and then they would be able to locate the disaster victims more efficiently. Because Japan is a disaster-prone country. That's what it needs. Other drone headlines going on in Japan. Just a variety of headlines. I'm going to read these pretty quickly. Drone survey of sewer pipes conducted in Ibaraki Prefecture. Drone School brought to you by Chukyo Television, a broadcasting development of the Swing Project. Shimane Prefecture officials learn drone operation in Matsue to prepare for disasters. JTB and JAL have jointly developed an AI-based drone aerial photography service and are now in demonstration operation on Shodoshima Island. Fireworks drone show using special effects fireworks and drones will be held in Kashiwa on Friday, April 11th! Forest survey using drones and AI analysis, building a detailed database of Togane City's protected forests. Underwater drones expected to be used in fishing, industry, government, academia project on a remote island in Karatsu. Using drones to uncover wartime ruins. Laser measurements taken of Ankayaba battery ruins and other sites on Kakeroma Island, Setouchi Town, using drones. Kotoura Town conducts drone drills to transport supplies to isolated villages. In the sky and underwater, bringing drones closer to you. Notice of major renewal of rental site. So, just a variety of drones. So you can see that compared to the Chinese one, these Chinese ones, these are much more practical. They're not grandiose, except for the fireworks thing, but it's mapping and disaster relief and using LiDAR and stuff like that to just find stuff that you can't normally find. Moving on into the facial recognition segment. I was hoping to cover more like robotics, and the drones are a bit different, but the robots are so interesting these days, the way that they can move around and flip and run and just the motions of their hands and how they can swing their hips around. It's obviously amazing, but in terms of podcasting, there's not like, that's all I can say. The robot flipped. It looks great when you look at it, but you try to get into the details, but the companies are so cagey about what's going on because it's such a secretive project. All the actuators and voltage that they have to use to make these things work. So I can't cover it as much, but facial recognition and stuff like that is actually probably more of an effect on our daily lives as citizens, because these things are going up and they're tracking us and we don't really vote for it. It just kind of happens. So that's why I focus it, because there's this idea of surveillance capitalism. And it gets a bad term, and it's one of those things where I can have these words in my head and it has one meaning, and you can have those things in your words and those words in your head and it has a different meaning. It's one of those things. But for me, surveillance capitalism kind of means like a lot of the ways that this technology only makes money is when it's used for surveillance. So if you have a AI camera and it just notices if something is a hot dog or not a hot dog, famous classic joke. Okay, sure, pretty amazing. How does it make money? You don't need it for that. But if you have an AI camera that has somebody that can identify somebody holding a knife or not holding a knife, or identify somebody of a certain ethnic persuasion or not an ethnic persuasion, well, now that becomes a surveillance application, and now governments around the world are clamoring to get their hands on it. So for me, surveillance capitalism kind of means this unique feature of AI technology that makes it very, very appropriate for surveillance. And once you stack it up into a surveillance project, suddenly billions of dollars start pouring out of it. But you take it out of surveillance and it just becomes like a stupid toy that people laugh at for 5 minutes before forgetting about it for the rest of their lives. Arakawa Ward to purchase 220 million yen for new security cameras starting next month with AI facial recognition to help locate lost children and elderly people. Arakawa Ward in Tokyo will do this, and a system will be established to quickly review footage. The ward currently has 525 cameras installed on the streets and elsewhere, and 33 of these will be updated to models equipped with AI functions that can identify faces after April. It goes on from there. It's behind a paywall, so I'm not going to register to be a paid member, but 33, funny how that number pops up there, isn't it? 33, the ultimate mysterious number in the news. 33. So then, anyways, we got surveillance capitalism going on, and there's the idea from the government, and then there's the idea from the companies. So if companies are using AI cameras, it's usually to protect their premises or to locate criminals or something like that. But when the government does it, it's for everybody. So there's like this, but we kind of might need it for everybody at the same time if we're tracking criminals from a private place to a public place, right? Quite a dichotomy, quite a dilemma. This other place, this comes to us from valuepress.com from Tech Matsumoto. Launch of AI threat camera installation service to combat vehicle thefts. So the Tech Matsumoto will begin the AI intimidation camera installation service for car dealers and parking lots in the Tokyo metropolitan area in April 2025. Interesting that the previous article for the cameras in Arakawa Ward also are going up in April. I wonder if there's like a new stipulation or relaxing of laws. The effectiveness of the AI intimidation camera, great name by the way, maybe that's the title of the show, has been successful in repelling copper cable thieves at solar power plants and has been a topic of discussion on television media. The theft of copper wires from solar power plants is showing signs of being curbed, but vehicle theft is in a state of lawlessness as there are no laws to counter it. This is translated by Google, so take it as a grain of Google salt. Criminals have become fearless as they know that the penalties for theft are lenient, and so their crimes have become bolder. When we looked into theft crimes at solar power plants, we noticed that there were many similarities with the locations of vehicle thefts. So they've been putting up AI cameras there. Using AI, the camera detects the movement and intrusion of people in vehicles with high accuracy and issues sound and light alerts from the camera itself. It also has a function to notify a smartphone app of an intrusion. This website has videos that show like a camera array, and cars will come up to like a gate and slow down, and then these lights just light them up. These cameras go whoop, 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 and the car drives off, or somebody is sneaking around the bushes and these things light them up, whoop, 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 and the person runs away. They're kind of very suspicious. I think that's about it for here. The AI warning cameras are installed and tuned with the concept of preventing crimes before they happen. Pre-crime. Surveillance capitalism pre-crime. But they sound an alarm to people or vehicles during the preview stage or immediately before an intrusion or crime occurs. Therefore, the main areas where the service is provided are places or areas that are unoccupied at night and on holidays. It may be possible to introduce this system under certain conditions in offices and residences where people enter and exit the vehicle at night, such as by limiting the detection area to only the area near the vehicle door, limiting detection time to between midnight and 5 a.m., and adding a facial recognition function as well. So there we go. Next generation salad vending machine with AI adjusted prices installed at Kyoto City Hall Station. As a new approach to reducing food waste, a next-generation vending machine equipped with AI, the salad stand, will be installed at Kyoto City Hall Station. The project is being promoted by Competco and will be fully operational from March 3rd, 2025. How does AI decide prices? The biggest feature of Salad Stand is that it has a dynamic pricing function that utilizes AI. Dynamic pricing is a technology that adjusts prices in real time based on data such as demand, supply, time of day, and expiration date. This allows products with low foot traffic or close expiration dates to be offered at a discount, minimizing waste. The technology uses a patented system that uses AI cameras to analyze station traffic and adjust prices in real time, while the company claims they could reduce food waste by more than 30%. So it's just like a salad in a box, salad in a jar. You just order it. It's like comes out of the machine and you have a salad, I guess. And they want to use AI for dynamic pricing. Not a bad idea. 7 Bank's ATM facial recognition face cash aims to make ATMs a telephone counter. 7 Bank has started offering Face Cash, a service that allows users to make various transactions at ATMs using facial recognition. Initially, this function will be available at 2 banks, Shizuoka Bank and 7 Bank, and users will be able to make empty-handed transactions at ATMs using only their facial information, even without a cash card. At present, the service is limited to cash deposits and withdrawals, but this will be the first step to utilizing the 27,800 ATMs currently in operation at 7-Eleven stores and commercial facilities across Japan. I think that's fine. I'm not going to go too much into that. So, facial recognition ATMs are nothing new, but the regulatory aspects to them have been overcome, it seems, in Japan. Not sure if I'd use it, to be honest. I don't really find myself without a wallet. As a foreigner in Japan, I'm required to have my ID card on me at all times. I'm technically not allowed to go anywhere without it. So I've just become accustomed to always having ID with me or a wallet on me wherever I go. I've been here for 18 years and I never leave the house without it. And I don't mind having the only thing though is that I've noticed with cards, I've lost some cards recently. Getting them replaced is a ball ache, and being able to no longer deal with cards does have a certain appeal to it, especially the My Number card in Japan, which just leads to more and more paperwork. I always have to photocopy it, but they're going to have this idea where you can have, my number card is just like a digital ID. You can download it onto your phone. And I've always been two minds about it. I hate the idea because I'm like, why is the government on my phone? Why do I have to take memory that I pay for and data that I pay for on a monthly basis and allow the government to exist on my phone for free? Well, if you lose that My Number card, you have to go report it to the police. You have to go down to City Hall. Then you might have to go to the tax office. And you get paperwork for this thing that's supposed to eliminate paperwork. But now you can just download it onto your phone. You can't really lose it that way. It's not a bad thing. I wouldn't mind having a picture of it on my phone. Maybe that would just be enough. But then I have this idea of the government apps on my phone. It's a real leap in the concept of why I should have a phone. I'm sure most people would just go along with it, but I'm very disagreeable when it comes to like the government just saying, well, just download our app and put it on your phone. I'm like, well, let's wait a minute here. So the other idea here is 7-Eleven using the facial recognition cameras, but for cash withdrawals. But there's also these unmanned stores that have been popping up, and they've been popping up for about 10 years now, initially in China. And what I like about these things is how the idea behind them evolves into something else, where at first these facial recognition unmanned stores in China would just be kind of like basically like a fancy shipping container with a door on it. And you could, if you own one of these unmanned shops, if you're the owner, you'd have an app on your phone and you could like hit a button on the app and wheels would pop out from under the store and you could transport it to another location easily. But a lot of these things got shut down very quickly because one thing that you have to consider with real estate is location. So some people would park them in a nice place, but then the sun comes up and it starts hitting this box that has no air conditioning in it, and it makes all the soda really hot. It melts all the cheeses inside, and it liquefies the salads that you're trying to sell. So a lot of people kind of got fed up with them because you would go in, it would be super hot. You try and buy like a snack, and the chocolate would be all melted. So there was it was a good idea on paper, but in reality, it just sucked. But there's this new idea in Japan, and this one's translated as well, and this headline is pretty nuts. The next generation convenience store, Min Naka, created by Reiwa Tiger President Iguchi, has adopted the facial recognition system, Face System. Kind of butchered it there, but that's the way it goes. Introducing 3 types of face system that support unmanned operation, achieving both convenience and security. So it says we, I don't know why it's translated. We have introduced our latest facial recognition service, Face System, to Minnaka Higashi Ikebukuro Nichome store, a new type of convenience store with a children's cafeteria created by the president. The introduction of this system will support the efficiency and safety of unmanned operations by utilizing a walk-through facial recognition security gate. Starting with this introduction, we plan to release details of the Face System in due course. So what is new with this convenience store? The current situation is that prices at convenience stores have risen, and the issue is not being able to provide support to families who really need it due to insufficient budgets. To solve these issues, this convenience store aims to open new stores that contribute to society throughout Japan by combining children's cafeterias with cheap and safe convenience stores. So I guess the idea here is that by making it facial recognition and having a focus on kids, that would in turn make it more appealing to a safer environment. And you could take your kids there and let them play around as well. And then what I also like about it is they have alcohol sales where if your information is registered, you can scan the cooler with the booze in it will scan your face. And if your face is registered and your appropriate documentation is also confirming that you're above the age legal limit, it will unlock and you'll be able to buy beers from there. So even as a dad on a day off, you could take your kids to this thing, let them play around. And as they're playing around, you might be able to chill with a beer in an air-conditioned convenience store and not have to worry about flashing money around or doing all of that. And the kids won't even notice, because once you start using money around kids, they get really into it. And they wouldn't be able to get into the booze either, because they wouldn't be allowed to access it, because their faces wouldn't be registered or scanned, or wouldn't be able to, because they don't have the appropriate documentation that would enable it to be scanned and unlocked. So this is the new idea of a convenience store, where it's not just using your face to get in, but it's using your face to get in, bring your family, and then providing a certain amount of safety measures within the store to make it family friendly, but also dad friendly. Because sometimes after running around with kids for like a few hours, you want to sit down, just like chill with a beer. Next, Telecube, Topan Edge, and 2 other companies have launched Cloak One Gate, a gate-type face recognition service using an all-weather movable booth. I saw this and I thought, who the hell cares? But I was like, actually, this is very clever, because as the facial recognition expands, you need the technological know-how to make it expand. Ticket systems are very low tech. You can just write a number on it, and as long as it's good enough, you let the person in or not. But now with people buying with tickets online with their faces, and your face is registered in a system, well, if I'm holding a concert and I want to use this technology to promote it, to get a market segment into my venue, then I have to also launch an investment into facial recognition systems for letting guests come and go from a venue. That's very expensive and requires know-how. So this company is kind of making it a rental service, where they're going to have the facial recognition booths, and you could rent however many of them you need. They set them up at the venue, and I guess the information is correlated via a platform of some sort. And then as a venue owner or organizer, I don't need to worry about that. So there's peripheral business ideas that are now popping up that we wouldn't have normally thought about before, due to the expansion of this technology. So just like how the car was branded as a horseless carriage, well, your horse didn't have subwoofers in it, and your horse didn't have radios connecting with satellites in it and stuff like that. So we don't know where these business ventures will grow with this new technology, but these clever people figure it out pretty quickly. And I was just thinking, what? You're going to have rental facial recognition systems? Well, we're going to need them probably in the future, or need them at certain times for certain things, and you don't need them all the time. So why not just rent them? And then you don't have to become a facial recognition booth expert just to have some people come in to see a concert or go to a certain symposium or whatever. The next one is facial recognition platform Frido collaborates with facial recognition device Konoktoi Lite. Now, I've been saying that Frido has been on the radar for the Japan Web podcast for a better part of a year now, and they're installing their facial recognition systems into condominiums all over Japan, as well as into a shipbuilding plant in Sri Lanka, or Timor-Leste. Sorry, not Sri Lanka, Timor-Leste, or East Timor. Quite different places. But one of the things that I've noticed is that most of the hardware is imported from China. Well, this facial recognition device by Konoktoi Lite is manufactured in-house. So it says their Japanese-made facial recognition terminal, Konoktoi Lite, which is designed, developed, and manufactured in-house, is equipped with CyberLink's AI facial recognition FaceMe. This collaboration will further expand the provision of services for offices and factories in addition to the traditional use for condominiums, and will enable sales expansion and business expansion by leveraging each other's strengths. So I thought this was great, because one thing is, if you're just relying on this type of advanced technology from another country and they sanction you because of some sort of supply chain war, well, then your whole futuristic vision of the future for your company is foobarred. But by putting it into domestic production, well, now you've just secured the future, haven't you? I think this is the last one for today, the last headline. KO Electric Railway conducts demonstration experiment of autonomous driving on the Ino-Kashira line. So we've been seeing self-driving trains pop up more and more. And for certain parts of the country, it makes sense. UD line has been self-driving for decades, but it's in a unique position because it doesn't cross any roads and it doesn't connect directly to any other trains or platforms. So you don't have this idea where there's other things crossing and getting in the way. It's just a single track. The track, it has rubber wheels and it runs on cement and it doesn't go very fast, and it's every station it stops. And it was designed with this in mind, whereas a lot of train networks are designed just going somewhere, and then houses develop around it and roads develop around it and cross and turn over. And you have all these variabilities that make AI appealing but very dangerous. But the Inokashira line, for the local line, it's not that complex. Keio Corporation will begin a demonstration experiment of autonomous driving on the Inokashira line from mid-March. The Inokashira Line 1000 series, equipped with an autonomous driving system, will be used as the running test vehicle, and the train will run as a non-returnable train with a driver and conductor on board. Non-returnable train, what is that? The purpose of this demonstration experiment is to confirm the safety and stability of the autonomous driving system, as well as the tasks and actions of the driver during the autonomous driving. The test train will consist of 1,778 trains, and the test will cover the entire Inokashira line, 12.7 kilometers of operating distance. And the test will be conducted both day and night. And it kind of goes on from there. So we can see that the practicality of this technology is expanding more and more, and it's expanding in ways we don't really see in Japan. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but it's an unseen revolution. The stuff from China that's happening, the drone that pops out of the top of a car and zooms around, or an AI hospital. You're like, it's so obvious. But a lot of this other technology, facial recognition apartments, facial recognition trains, somebody at using their face at a cash machine, it's not really so obvious. So as this technology spreads more and more, the obviousness of this technology kind of fades into the infrastructure that's housing it. And as users of this technology, we don't even really notice it, but it's certainly noticing us. So that's going to be my analysis of Japan Society 5.0 for today.
The fourth industrial revolution will enable us to create a new society. Artificial intelligence will transform the big data collected through the Internet of Things into new wisdom. Society 5.0, a technology-based, human-centered society. The fourth industrial revolution will raise our standard of living and solve various challenges we face.
So optimistic. That's from like 2017. What a different world we live in now. So that's going to be the podcast for today. I'm going to play a song and then come back on the other end. So the song is a review of the podcast, and I get Grok to make sonnets. I correct the sonnets and I put them into Suno. And then I spend about an hour in Suno trying to get a decent song out of it, because Suno's great, but it produces a lot of just claptrap. And then I play it for the podcast. So this song is pretty good. I quite like the way it turned out. And I'm going to play it for you now. And then I'll come back and deliver the final comments for today.
Drones sprout from cars and BYD sharp milk. Moth antennae guide a syndrome sweep. AI towns buzz where synthetic veins creep. Salad machine happening now on the Japan Wood Podcast. Antarctic ice splits where drills alight. Submarines carve waves with Taiji's frame. U.S. pleas for budget meet Japan's game. Pacific tides tense with Beijing's roar. Kurds kick dust on Saitama's floor. Missiles perch on pads in China's glare. Vietnam grabs Israeli satellites to stare.
Yeah, see, I thought that was the best one. I made so many of these songs based on the same lyrics, but now I don't know if that's the best one. Maybe this is the best one. Is this one better or worse? Same lyrics.
Drones sprout from cars and BYD sharp meld. Moth antennae guide a scent drone sweep. AI towns buzz where synthetic veins creep. Salad machines hum with prices AI held. Facial scans unlock cash at 7 steel. Tar pits, snare scrapers, and sticky binds. It's not in the future, it's happening now on the Japan Podcast.
The vocals were screwed up there.
Cloaks part at gates with weatherproof zeal. Archives lenses hunt through crowded haze. ATMs mimic counters with facelit talk. Kyoto screens thwart thieves that stalk. Vending gears churn greens in time phase. Scent trails bend where drones pursue. Camera beams guard what thieves might do. Births fade fast in Japan's quiet sprawl. Kurds bristle at Saitama's flag denial. Pakistani's shout for rights and stern trial. India's talent gleams under Japan's call. Trump fumes at yen with tariff edge spite. China's sea prowl stretched to Pacific brim. It's not in the future, it's happening now on the Japan Wood Podcast. Antarctic ice splits where drills alight. Submarines carve waves with Taiji's frame. U.S. pleas for budget meet Japan's game. Pacific tides tense with Beijing's roar. Kurds kick dust on Saitama's floor. Missiles perch on pads in China's glare. Vietnam grabs Israeli satellites to stare.
Tight ending there. So again, like I just decided I would play that one too because I put in these things into the machine, and the machine gives me like those two different types of songs, and I'm like, what is going on? Which one's the better one? I don't know. And then I listen to it and I go, maybe that's the best one. Maybe it's not the best one. Which one of those two do you like? I don't know. Did you even listen to them? All right. Well, that's going to be the podcast for today. Remember to go to MatthewPMBigelow.com for all things Japan What. Until next time, everybody, make a donation at paypal.me/Japan WUT. Until then, I bid thee very heartful and warmful. Ja Mata.